What's up, Cosorians? I'm Chef Margaret, and today I'll be showing you how to make homemade pizza in the air fryer 2 ways. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified every time we upload a new recipe video. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna do is make our pizza dough. Super easy to make. So I'm using a stand mixer here with a dough hook attachment. If you don't have that, you can mix the dough in a large bowl and knead it by hand. So I have 1 3/4 cup of bread flour. And I'm using bread flour versus regular all-purpose flour because bread flour has a higher protein content. And so what that just means is that your dough will have more stretchiness to it, and it won't tear as much, which is what you want. So to that I have 1/2 teaspoon of granulated sugar. I've got 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Get that all in there. 1 1/8 teaspoons of instant dry yeast. And these are all the dry ingredients. So now I'm going to put the mixer in. I'm gonna put the dough hook attachment in. And I'm just gonna mix it on low speed just to incorporate all the dry ingredients. It'll just take a couple of seconds. Perfect. So to that I'm going to add, I have 3/4 cup of warm water. It's about 90 to 110 degrees. You don't want it over that, otherwise you risk it killing the yeast. So I'm gonna dump that in there. And I've got 1 tablespoon of olive oil. So now I'm gonna mix this on high speed for about 5 minutes. If you were kneading it by hand, I'd say it would take about maybe 10 minutes, but also it's totally doable if you don't have a stand mixer. All right, the dough is done kneading. It looks awesome. So I'm gonna show you how it looks. It just feels super soft and the right texture. So I'm just going to knead it just until it forms a nice brown dough. This looks awesome. And I have here a bowl with about 1 teaspoon of olive oil. And so I'm just going to rub that around the bowl and a little bit around the top of my dough. And so we're gonna place it in here, and it's going to rise for about 1 hour or until it's doubled in size. The time will depend on the temperature of your kitchen. If you're making this during, the winter time, it may take closer up to 2 hours. If you're in the summertime, it may take less than 1 hour, but you'll know once it's like doubled in size. And I also have here one that's already risen for 1 hour. So we're gonna swap that out, and you can see, even though I'm using a large bowl, it's risen by quite a lot. So it's perfect and it's ready to go. And people may say oh, I don't have time to make homemade pizza dough, if you wanna have it during a weeknight, but you can actually freeze pizza dough. I would put it in a freezer safe, reusable, plastic bag. And it'll store up in the freezer for about 3 months. So you could just defrost it in your refrigerator, and then you are ready to have pizza whenever you want. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to divide this into 2 portions, because this recipe makes 2 about 7-inch pizzas. So I'm gonna divide that into 2. And you can use flour if needed. And I'm just gonna kind of roll it into circles, just like this. And then I'm gonna cover them with a towel I have right here. And they're just gonna rest for about 10 minutes. It's gonna help the gluten kind of relax and make it easier for us to roll them out. So these look great. I'm gonna cover them with my kitchen towel right here, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. Okay, so the first type of pizza that we're gonna make is a traditional pizza margherita. So we're gonna make our homemade pizza sauce, super easy to make. I have 128 can of whole peeled. I'm using San Marzano tomatoes. And so what I did was I drained the can using only the whole peeled tomatoes. And then I usually just save the reserved liquid if I'm adding it to soups or pastas or whatever. So I have that in this bowl, and I'm gonna add 1.5 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil right in there. Got 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt and 1/4 teaspoon of dried oregano. And I'm using an immersion blender, but you can do this in a blender or food processor. And I'm just gonna pulse it until it's pretty smooth and combined. Depending on the texture that you like it, some people like their pizza sauce really smooth, some people like them a little bit more chunky. All right, that looks awesome. I like using immersion blenders because it's less to clean up. But that looks great. It's still chunky, but it's mostly smooth. And you'll probably have some like leftover of this sauce, but again, like I love throwing this into pastas or soups, and you can also freeze it too, and it'll last great. Okay, so my dough has rested for about 10 minutes, so now I'm gonna get the air fryer preheating to 400 degrees. Perfect. So while that's going, I'm gonna start stretching out my pizza dough. So I'm gonna put a little bit of flour on here to make it easier. And I just like to gently roll it out with my hands, kind of let gravity do its thing. And you're aiming to get it roughly about a 7-inch circle. But I just kind of like to take it and stretch it and drop it and keep going in a circular motion. Awesome. And if you find that your dough just is not working with you, it just keeps springing back together, that's kind of a sign that you need to let your dough rest a little bit longer. So cover it again, give it 5 more minutes, and then continue stretching, and it should work a lot more easier for you. Okay, the air fryer is preheated. So I'm gonna take the basket out, and I'm gonna put 1 pizza dough straight into the basket. And then I have about 1 tablespoon of olive oil, and I'm gonna brush this lightly all over the top of the pizza. And so what we're gonna do is we're going to bake the pizza dough blind without any toppings first. And so this just helps the crust get super golden and crispy before putting the toppings on. So when the pizza is all done, it's gonna have a really nice crispy bottom, and you won't have any soggy, uncooked areas. So this is gonna go in at 400 degrees for 5 minutes. And then what I'm gonna do is flip the dough over and cook it again for 400 degrees for 2 minutes. We flip it back over, add the toppings, and then goes back in for 5 more minutes, and then it's perfectly done. 5 minutes. Okay, cool. Okay, so our pizza dough is ready for the toppings, and it looks great right now. It's nice and golden, and so again, we do this so that our pizza isn't soggy and floppy around. It really holds its shape, which I love. So I've got our pizza sauce here. I'm gonna use roughly about 3 tablespoons. And I'm just gonna put some on the pizza and spread it around. And I'm gonna leave about a 1/2-inch border for the crust. Perfect. And today we're making pizza margherita and a barbecue chicken pizza, but you can do your favorite toppings, get creative, and use this technique of baking the crust to use for any application of pizza. So we baked it at 400 degrees for 5 minutes. We flipped it over and put it back in at 400 for 2 minutes, and I flipped it over. We're putting any toppings that you like, and then it's gonna go back in at 400 degrees for 5 minutes. So I've got the sauce on, and then I've got some fresh mozzarella here, and I'm just gonna kind of break it up into, you know, largest pieces with my hands. Just kind of put it all over, just like that. And then I like to keep the basil fresh for topping once the pizza has fully baked. That looks great to me. So yeah, now this is gonna go back in at 400 degrees for 5 minutes, and then it's gonna be ready to eat. Perfect. Okay, the pizza margherita is done, and it looks awesome. The cheese is melted. It's well baked through. See, the bottom of the crust is nice and golden. It's not soggy, which I love. Pop this back in. So now I'm just gonna top it with some fresh basil. I love the smell of basil, so fresh. And it looks so pretty. This is such a classic pizza. You can't really go wrong with the pizza margherita. Yeah, so next up, we're going to make a barbecue chicken pizza. Okay, so it's time for the barbecue chicken pizza. I've prepped my dough, same with the margherita pizza. I blind baked it at 400 degrees for 5 minutes, flipped it over, cooked it for another 2 minutes, and I flipped it back over. Now we're gonna put the toppings on and put it back in the air fryer. So I've got 1 large chicken breast that I've just fully cooked and shredded in this bowl. You can use leftover chicken from the night before if you have that. That's a great way to use it for this pizza. And I have 1 cup of spicy barbecue sauce. I love spicy barbecue sauce, but you can use your favorite barbecue sauce that you have at home. So I have 1 cup here, and I'm going to put half of it in with the chicken mixture. That looks about good to me. So half of it we're gonna mix with the chicken, and then the other half we're gonna spread it on the pizza crust like you would with tomato sauce. Yummy. Okay, now for the cheeses. I've got a cup of shredded mozzarella and half a cup of shredded smoked Gouda cheese. The combination of the two is really good for the barbecue chicken pizza. And then I've got roughly about like a 1/4 cup of sliced red onion and about 2 tablespoons of fresh cilantro leaves that I've chopped, and we're gonna put that on after the pizza has fully baked, and we're just gonna garnish with it. So we're first going to take our remaining half cup of barbecue sauce, chicken pizza, and I'm gonna put a couple tablespoons on here and spread it out just like how I did with the margherita pizza. Just get it all over. Again, I'm gonna leave about a 1/2 inch border for the crust. Now I'm going to top it with some of the chicken. You can put as much or as little as you like. And because we baked the pizza crust blind first, it's really gonna be, you know, it'll hold up too if you wanna put like a lot of toppings on the pizza. Cool. Now we're going to put some shredded mozzarella and some Gouda. Do a combination of both. Yum, yum, yum. Perfect. A little bit more. And then we're gonna do a couple sliced red onion. Yeah. That looks already so delicious. And now we're gonna pop it back in for 400 degrees for 5 more minutes, and they'll be ready to taste test all the pizzas. Awesome. All right, the pizzas are done and they both look awesome. I garnished the barbecue chicken pizza with some fresh chopped cilantro just to add some freshness to it and some nice color. So I think I'm gonna go for the barbecue chicken pizza. Let's taste it. So good. I love using spicy barbecue sauce because it adds a little kickness to it. So good. And you can see the bottom of the pizza is still really nice and crispy and golden. It's not soggy or anything, which is what I look for in a really good pizza. The crust is really delicious because we made it ourselves, but if you're short on time, you can totally use store-bought pizza dough. And get creative and use your favorite toppings, and let me know in the comments below what are your favorite pizza toppings. These are so fun and easy to make. I hope you give these a try and make homemade pizza in the air fryer. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.